chat. I stand before you today, coming from my dorm study room whiteboard to info dump. Today, we're going to be talking about the Wizard of Oz franchise, one of my absolute favorite things in the whole world since I first saw it when I was 5. Any of you who know me in real life know that this has been a long time coming, because I take the opportunity to talk about Oz whenever I can get it, and if I don't get it, I'll make it. Anyway, we're starting with the MGM movie, of course. Came out in 1939, August 25th, directed by Victor Fleming, starring obviously Judy Garland, like come on, Ray Bolger, Jack Haley, Burt Lahr, Margaret Hamilton. Now this movie, it went on to become one of the most iconic IPs in history. But it's not entirely representative of the original book, necessarily. Its script went through several overhauls while they were writing. A bunch of drunk guys read the script. But they also gave us, iconic musical numbers. And it's obviously the most recognizable representation of Oz, so you know what? I'll be happy with it. Second off, the original book came out in 1900. Obviously a bit of a time gap. Came out on May 17th, almost my birthday. It's meant to be. But it was used as the original source material for most Oz adaptations. Some of its material was cut from the MGM movie, there was this town made of China porcelain people, and they just scrapped that. It wasn't cool enough. But in the book, the wizard actually also gave them the things that they asked for. Scarecrow got brains made out of grain and stuff. Tin Man got a mechanical heart. I think the lion got a potion? Yeah, liquid courage. Give him fireball. Anyway, moving on. The silver slippers. That's right, silver, not ruby. Because they were silver in the book. Camera's over here. They were silver in the book, changed to red ruby for the MGM film because, this was the thing with old cameras, is that if you get something that reflects light directly into the camera, it kind of ruins the whole shot, and that was happening way too frequently with the silver slippers, so they changed them to red, so that they would still be glamorous and magical, but they wouldn't send as many reflections into the camera lens. And now, that's been copyrighted, actually, by MGM, and anybody who uses the ruby slippers without asking first, they're gonna get in some legal hot water. So a lot of not necessarily licensed adaptations tend to use the silver slippers instead, such as Wicked. Gotta talk about Wicked. I can't do a Wizard of Oz video and not talk about Wicked, come on. But for the 2 people left on Earth who don't know, Wicked is a musical from June 2003, based on a book published September 1995. It follows the Glinda the Good and the Wicked Witch of the West, who they named Elphaba, not canon. But it follows Elphaba and Glinda as they were in college, and they were friends, and then she turned into the Wicked Witch, and it was all this stuff. The musical changes it from the book a lot more than a lot of people know. I haven't read the book myself, but I know it's some pretty drastic changes. But regardless, it's a beloved piece of Oz-inspired media, considered more of an alternate universe than canon, so I won't be talking about it anymore on here, but I have to acknowledge it. I want to acknowledge it. It's a good thing. I like Wicked, it's just not my favorite thing in the franchise. Moving on. The production of the movie had a ton of complications that led to some myths on set that people have been disproving for literal decades now. The hanging munchkin. There is no hanging munchkin. There's no hanging munchkin. I'm sorry. It was a bird. On the original VHS tape from 1980, you can look at it and you can see that it's a crane standing in the back of the shot, flapping its wings, while they're walking down the yellow brick road singing. people took that and they were like, oh, it's a guy hanging in the background. It's the director's son. He wanted a role. I don't know where all of that came from. None of that is true. Speaking of another thing that's not true, the snow. The snow is not asbestos. Stop saying it was asbestos. We have it confirmed. It's been confirmed by a guy who worked on the production, who wrote a book about it. It was gypsum. Asbestos was used on other parts, sure, you can be like freaked out about it was used in other parts of the production. But the snow wasn't asbestos. It was gypsum. We know it. Alright. For my last entry on the first level of our iceberg is the casting of the Tin Man. There's a lot. Buckle in. So, originally, Ray Bolger was cast as the Tin Man before they started properly filming, before they actually started, putting scenes on camera. Ray Bolger, who now plays the Scarecrow, not now, went on to play the Scarecrow. He insisted on switching from the Tin Man to the Scarecrow because he thought it was a better fit, and judging from the movie, I think he was right. But the guy they picked after he jumped ship was Buddy Epson. Buddy Epson had to depart the set due to some medical issues. Buddy Epson, his face makeup for the Tin Man was made of powdered aluminum, which initially seemed fine. It was not. Turns out he was breathing in aluminum through all of the scenes he was doing and had to be rushed to the hospital because of severe respiratory distress, because the aluminum powder coated his lungs. So they had to get another Tin Man, and that is Jack Haley, who actually ended up playing him in the film. Jack Haley did not go into anaphylaxis, to my knowledge. He was mostly fine. He did the movie. He did it well. He didn't escape totally unscathed, though, because they obviously after this switched to using a paste-based makeup instead, not like a powder one anymore. But the paste did get in his eye and give him a pretty nasty infection at one point, so, everybody has their stuff. Level 2. The full book series. Oh, surprisingly, a lot of people don't know this, but The Wizard of Oz is the first book in a series of 14 books. L. Frank Baum wrote 14 books in the Wizard of Oz series until he died in 1919, and then the 14th one was published in 1920 posthumously, Glinda of Oz. Also, they're all available as audiobooks on YouTube, and I have them listed on my YouTube channel. Return to Oz. Oh, my goat. I love Return to Oz. This is genuinely my favorite movie in the world. I've seen it more than half a dozen times. Puppeteering, on point. Soundtrack, chef's kiss. Now, this is both a sequel... This is a sequel to the MGM film, like, pretty confirmed to be, but it's also not... It's based on a blend of the second and third books in the series, and it's actually pretty true to canon. I mean, it blends these two stories pretty well, because it is, like, different plots that happen to different characters, and they kind of just, like, shuffle them onto each other. But it also keeps some elements of the original movie, like the ruby slippers, and, like, double casting people as, like, in Kansas or the real world, and then in Oz. Even though they didn't go the route of, like, oh, it was all a dream, which I appreciate, because that was not canon. Trans Ozma. Ozma is trans. Change my mind. Don't. So, okay, in the second book, the protagonist of the second book is a boy named Tip. Stay with me. He is revealed to actually have been the lost princess of Oz, Ozma, who was placed under a charm after the wizard came in and took over the kingdom, and she had all of her memories erased, transformed into a boy, never knew that she had been a princess until, eventually she finds out again, and this enchantress, like, turns her back into a girl, and she just lives as one for the rest of the book series. So not necessarily an explicitly trans character, but it's pretty good for, like, what, 1904? That's pretty good. We like that. A lot of people think Ozma is a trans icon, and I, for one, love it. Jack Pumpkinhead, oh, my baby boy. I love him so much. Jack Pumpkinhead is a sweetheart. He's the best. He's awesome. His appearance and backstory, he's in Return to Oz, and he's pretty true to how he's depicted in the books. So he was built originally by Tip/pre-transition Ozma in order to scare the witch Mombi, who had been, trapping him. And then she used this thing called the Powder of Life, which can animate objects, and she brought him to life. And now he's just here. He's afraid, consistently asks about, oh, do you guys see anything, is my head rotting? Because his head is a pumpkin, and it's only gonna last a couple months, theoretically. So that's, something he's always worried about. Poor guy. He's also, he's got the same facial expression all the time, because it's a carved pumpkin. So, he's always smiling, but he's like, I'm not happy right now. I don't want to look like this. Yeah. I love him so much. I love Jack Pumpkinhead. TikTok, not the app nor the Kesha song, but a secret third thing. But it's not a secret anymore because I'm telling you. TikTok is a guy made out of copper. He's a clockwork man. Explicitly states multiple times, I'm not alive, and he takes pride in not being alive, which is kind of sick. But in the movie, they say he's Army of Oz and was given orders by the Scarecrow. That wasn't canon. They kind of just used that to change the placement because he was originally discovered in this. There's an adjacent fairy country to Oz called Ev that's just separated from it by the desert, but he was discovered in Ev, and then Dorothy took him to Oz with her because she was going on her thing and he was just following her. TikTok's main gimmick is that he's got these 3 clockwork wheels on his back that you have to keep consistently wound up, like a watch. But they control his thought, his speech, and his action, and if one of them runs down, he stops being able to do anything. If his action runs down, he's just stopped in the middle of a step. So, nobody's perfect. The Gump. The Gump doesn't have that much going on. The Gump was just a mounted head of a Gump, which is this fictional kind of moose-like creature. He's got antlers, he's kind of deer, bovine looking. But, they took him off the wall, animated him, stuck him to a couch with some palm leaves, and he flew people out of the palace. But then after that whole debacle was over, he asked them, hey, can I just be a head on the wall again? And they let him. That's basically all he's doing right now. Legends of Oz is a movie. Legends of Oz is a couple of things. Good is not one of those things. It came out on May 9th, 2014. Not well received, but it also had it was kind of a scam. The producers were kind of scammers, but it was just a whole thing. I don't know a lot about that, but I know it had a lot of huge names attached to the project. They got Lea Michele, they got Dan Aykroyd, they got Kelsey Grammer, Jim Belushi, Martin Short, Oliver Platt, Hugh Dancy. Sir Patrick Stewart was on this. He did a cameo as a tree. Why is Patrick Stewart in here? The only good thing I find about this movie is the character of Marshall Mallow. I love Marshall Mallow. There's nothing else here. It's set simultaneously. For Dorothy, it's the day after she got back. She doesn't even enjoy a full day of peace before they're already yoinking her back to Oz. She just got home, she's hanging out with Toto, she's looking around, the whole neighborhood got destroyed by the tornado, and Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are going to sell their house. She doesn't like that. She doesn't like that they're going to sell their house to this appraiser guy who shows up and seems shady and turns out to be a scammer. But, you know, in Oz, it's been, what, like, either a year or 100 days or 100 years or something like that. It doesn't matter. Time moves differently. They're dealing with a situation, and they bring her back to fight the witch's brother, the Jester, who is never mentioned in any canon material. None of this book is canon, by the way. It's the only canon elements are based on this book that was written by L. Frank Baum's great-grandson, not even close to the original 14 books. Guys, please. There's so much of the original books to source from. Why are you making original stuff that's terrible? But anyway, it's also like weirdly set in present day for Dorothy because there's cars. I don't know. I'm not talking about this anymore. I'm sick of it. One thing I will talk about is the Tin Man's backstory. A lot of adaptations ignore the Tin Man's backstory. And I can kind of see why. I can kind of actually see why. Because, the Tin Man got cursed by the Wicked Witch of the West to, he was a wood chopper. He was a normal munchkin guy named Nick Chopper, and he had an axe and he would chop wood. His axe gets cursed so that it slips and cuts off different parts of his body. He cuts off his arms, he cuts off his legs, he eventually cuts off his head and his torso until he's like, the tinsmith completely replaces him with metal prosthetics, and he's just a guy made out of tin. Yeah, it's actually pretty dark. And the tinsmith keeps the human parts. We're gonna get back to that later. But, you know, this dark kind of backstory is omitted from a lot of Oz media, especially if it's geared toward younger kids, because we're not doing all that. We're not doing all that. The Wiz! Ah, I love The Wiz. The Wiz is so fun. Now, okay. Debuted 1978. It's a very, very 70s movie, you can tell. But it's this all-black musical, loosely based on The Wizard of Oz, set in 1970s New York. They, like, dance around New York. There's a whole bunch of amazing sets. The character designs, beautiful. It's like... there's a ton of original content in this musical, but unlike Legends of Oz, they actually do it well. This is like, it keeps the original whimsy of the source material, you know? This is like, it's not in the books, but it's something that feasibly could have been. It's nice. I love The Wiz. The Wiz is very cute. That's not where I'm going. Okay. I'm gonna drop a bit of a hot take. There are too many horror adaptations of The Wizard of Oz. We have enough. We have too many. They're all mediocre. Most of them are mediocre. Maybe there's like one or two good ones, but I don't know what they are, and I don't care. I don't care. What if The Wizard of Oz was evil? What if they were killing people? I know what would happen if they were killing people. Because it's been written about 500 times by 500 other people, and it's been mid every single time. It's a whimsical kids franchise. Enough! Stop making it that. It's never done well. I'm sick and tired of it. Back to whimsy. Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz is, it's pretty peak, actually. I watched it in my bed while my sleeping medication was kicking in, and I thought it was great. I had a wonderful time. It came out in 2011, and it's basically just like a cartoon recreation of the MGM film, but it's very much, it's like a love letter to classic animation. It's all very Hanna-Barbera. Droopy Dog is in there. Hi, Droopy. Okay. But Tom and Jerry are just like a cat and mouse who hang out on the Kansas farm. This follows the MGM movie, like, to a T, by the way. They're in the sepia-toned farm. They're, like, following her around. They're kind of her guardians. Atom is like, hey, you guys look after her. And they're like, okay. And they do cross my heart. Christian Tom and Jerry. We don't have time for that. They promise to take care of Dorothy, so they follow her to Oz. They're, like, hanging on the front step of the house and go up in the tornado. They land in Oz with her, but they've been knocked out for, like, a little longer than she has, so she's kind of ahead of them and has met up with everyone by this point, so they don't have to recreate the entire movie. Like, it's kind of cut down. But they do find, Tuffy, the little mouse. He's a munchkin guy. His whole shtick is, like, he wants to be bigger, and he ends up getting stilts from the wizard, which is cute. That's really all of it. I mean, it's not groundbreaking, but it's a nice watch. It's cute. It's charming. I like Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz. And that brings us to our third level. The Muppets Wizard of Oz. I was very excited when I heard about the Muppets Wizard of Oz. But upon looking it up, a lot of people don't really like this one. They don't dislike it necessarily. It's just kind of like, it's there. But apparently, it came out in April 2005, and it's this present-day retelling of The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy is this teenage girl. She's working at her aunt's diner. She wants to be a singer. She gets swept up by the tornado, taken to Oz, where she goes to the wizard and she, wants to wish to become a singer. She has to go through the whole Wicked Witch thing, and by the end of the story, when she gets back and Glinda's like, oh, click your heels, she goes home to Aunt Em, and then she gets picked to sing with the Muppets. Yay! Like, people thought it was mediocre. It wasn't great, which is sad. I love the Muppets, and Wizard of Oz, obviously, but this isn't on one of the Muppets movie lists that you should go watch. Maybe save this one for later, if at all. Yes. Okay. Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz is a pretty cute cartoon from 2017 through 2020. Probably tell why it ended. A lot of things ended in 2020. We're not getting into that. It's this very sweet animated show following Dorothy and her friends while she's figuring out the magic of the ruby slippers. Apparently she can use them to do magic, which is an interesting premise. There's a lot of interesting premises in this show, actually, because they take characters from the original books. They take characters from the later original books who are in almost no adaptations, and they bring them some spotlight, and I like that. They got the Patchwork Girl in here. They got Ozma as a regular member of the cast. They got other people. I can't remember any of them right now. I haven't actually watched much of this show. But yeah, it's very sweet. I like this show. Tales of the Wizard of Oz is also adorable. It's animated in the same... It's like 60s. It's animated in the same style as the Peanuts. Everybody has this huge blobby head. It's very fun. But it's this one-season animated series that follows Dorothy and her friends as they go on adventures. It's usually about them, like, asking for the stuff that they want from the wizard. But, this series did something interesting. They gave these characters actual names instead of just titles or descriptors. Tin Man, he's named Rusty. Cowardly Lion, named Dandy. Dandy Lion, and the Scarecrow gets named Socrates, which is pretty interesting. I think it fits well, considering he's aspiring to be intelligent. Lost in Oz. Lost in Oz is peak. Go watch it right now after this video. Lost in Oz is a 2015 to 2018 series on Amazon. I watched it on my dad's account. And I find this one of the most creative, ambitious reimaginings of Oz that's ever been made. So it is a lot of original content in terms of the plot and the writing, but they also use a lot of the older characters and concepts from the books, which is a perfect blend, and I love it. This is like futuristic Oz. This is Dorothy's great-granddaughter, who has been named after her. She's also named Dorothy, but she's not the same person. But the people in Oz don't necessarily know that. They're like, why are you back? And then she has to be like, no, that wasn't me. And they're like, oh, okay. But she meets the descendants of the lion and a bunch of the other characters, like the witch and stuff. And they're all in this, like, futuristic kind of technological land of Oz. Ojo is in this one. They got Ojo. They brought him back. We love Ojo in this house. They got Ojo. They got the Wheelers. Bring, guys, more Wheelers. We need more Wheelers. I love those things. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz it's interesting. It's like 40 minutes long, came out in 2007. Again, nothing groundbreaking. It's VeggieTales' parody of The Wizard of Oz. They don't really do all the songs. It's not really a musical, sort of. Well, it's a little bit musical. There are songs, but it's not like a one-to-one from the MGM movie. This is sourced from the MGM movie. There's no ruby slippers, and I don't know. They kind of just like change stuff in an attempt to make it funny, but it follows the same basic premise. The Emerald City is, instead of being this like magical land, it's this it's an amusement park. And then he finds out that the guy running the amusement park, he isn't supernatural. He's just like a guy trying to make a buck, and he gets mad. Let me think. Oh, it's also the prodigal son. It's VeggieTales, it's Christian, it's Junior runs away from his dad and then comes back and he's like, I'm sorry, and the dad's like, it's okay, and then it's okay. My brother's special interest is VeggieTales, so I have probably watched this movie genuinely over 100 times. Like, I can recite this movie line by line. I'm not going to, but I could. But instead, I'm going to talk about Oz no Mahotsukai. Oz no Mahotsukai was one of the many Oz anime adaptations, but I think it's the best one. Most people agree. It came out from 1986 to 1988, and it follows the plot of the first 3 books and also the 6th book. But it's split into 4 chapters that are dedicated to each book out of 52 episodes. This is so adorable. I know I keep saying that, but this is the cutest thing ever. Look at these character designs. I love them so much. Talking animals in Oz. Oz is something called a fairy country, which is, in the books, Oz isn't the only place. There's other quote-unquote fairy countries. There's the land of Ev, and there's a bunch of areas that are like under the crust of the earth, because Dorothy falls to the center of the earth for a little bit. We're not getting into that. But, talking animals. As soon as you enter one of these fairy country areas, any animals you have with you suddenly gain the ability to talk, like, coherently. And they're like, yeah, I've never done it before, but it felt natural, so I'm doing it now. And then, yeah, they're just talking. Every, like, animal, humanoid, living thing in Oz, or any other country, any other fairy country, can talk. And that means, do you know what that means? Toto can talk. He just doesn't want to. Because animals in Oz can still make, their animal noises if they feel like it. Toto just keeps barking. He just wants to. Kinda awesome. Speaking of animals, not really an animal, but kinda adjacent to one, the sawhorse. Our good friend the sawhorse. We love the sawhorse. Look at that guy. He gets introduced in the 2nd book. He's just a normal wooden, a sawhorse, something you use to saw wooden planks on. But he gets brought to life by the Powder of Life. That's the origin story for a lot of characters in Oz. But he's just a wooden sawhorse who moves around and acts like he's a horse. He runs around, he lets people ride on his back. He's still intelligent and talks and stuff, but he prefers to be just treated like a horse. He's a sweetheart. He's a down-to-earth guy. He's very helpful. We love him. General Ginger is a character. She sure is a character. She is the main antagonist of the second book, and she has this all-female army, which is a bad thing, apparently, according to L. Frank Baum in 1904. No all-female armies here. She briefly takes over the Emerald City, but then she gets defeated by the Good Witch Glinda's all-female army, which is good this time for some reason, even though the other one also was. Don't ask about it. It's 1904. Feminism? Who's that? No, in the later books, she is brought back and she's like, yeah, I married a dairy farmer. And we're like, oh. And then she's like, but it's okay because I punched him in the face. And we're like, oh, okay. Domestic abuse doesn't make this better. Maybe. L. Frank Baum, maybe don't this one. No, her character is meant to satirize and, like, make a parody of the, not necessarily the feminist movement, but, like, the suffragettes specifically, because that was going on back then. But, yeah, her character is like, ooh, she tries to be a general, but she's afraid of mice. Gotcha. No, Mr. L. Frank Baum, we're not doing that. On a lighter note, kinda, the Hungry Tiger. The Hungry Tiger, he gets introduced in book 3. He's the Cowardly Lion's friend, close friend. He's always hanging around them. But he's introduced in the 3rd book, and the Hungry Tiger's whole thing is that he's hungry. Shocker. Hungry Tiger's hungry. No. What? No, but he constantly expresses, like, he wants to eat all these little living things because he's a tiger. It's what he's supposed to do. But he also has a conscience, and he would feel bad about doing that. So he's just in this, like, perpetual state of hunger because he can't starve to death. We get to that later on. But yeah, he's not dying. He's just always hungry and uncomfortable, and he can't do anything about it because, like, he'll ask things like, hey, you look really delicious. Can I eat you? And they're like, no. And he's like, okay. And then he just keeps talking about how good they would taste, but he's not going to do anything about it. And it's like, okay, Hungry Tiger, maybe back up a little. The Wogglebug. Wogglebug's a guy. He, HM, highly magnified, Wogglebug, TE, thoroughly educated. He gets introduced in the 2nd book. He hangs out with Tip and the Sawhorse, Tin Woodman, and the Scarecrow. Tin Woodman's just another name for Tin Man. It's the same guy. But he's described as overeducated, and he makes a lot of puns that make all of the characters around him very upset. Tin Man threatens to chop him with his axe if he makes another pun, and everyone's like, simmer down. But in later books, he's a professor at the College of Oz. Good for him. Smart guy activities. That's where he should be. Scraps the Patchwork Girl. We love Scraps. She's very interesting. She gets introduced in book 7. The book is named after her. That's how interesting she is. But she was originally made to be, just a maid, a servant. But then Ojo found out that she was going to be that and only constructed with brains that were timid and, like, helpful and nice. And he was like, no, that's not right. She should have everything. And so he gave her brains with every single personality trait. All of them. She's got all of them. So she's kind of crazy. She's doing a lot. But she's a cotton-stuffed humanoid made of quilt patches with yarn hair and eyes made of buttons. And I think she also has, like, gold-plated ears and fingernails. Diva. She accompanies Ojo on wherever he's going, just hangs around. I think she dances and sings a lot. And she is introduced briefly as a love interest for the Scarecrow, which, I mean, we love Patchwork Girl, but I think we all know Tin Man and Scarecrow are endgame. Argue with the wall. Level 4. We're on the home stretch. Now, I'm there's not a lot of, like, media here anymore, so I'm just going to be introducing some more, like, obscure characters that you probably don't know about, unless you're a super fan, in which case, hi! This is more of an event than anything else. Nimmy Ami is, the Tin Man's fiance, back when he was the normal Munchkin Man, Nick Chopper. He goes off and rests in the woods for a year. She thinks he's dead, starts dating another guy from the Munchkin army. He is Able Fighter. Great job with the names, Elfrinkbaum. Great job. But, the reason that Nick Chopper got the enchantment placed on his axe is because his fiancée, Nimmy, is a servant for the Wicked Witch of the West. And she was like, hey, I don't want my employee to go live with someone else because then who else will work for me? We gotta get rid of this guy. She places the enchantment on his axe. He turns to tin, goes and rests. She's like, cool, problem solved. Fighter comes along and she's like, oh, I gotta do it all over again. So she does. I think his sword gets cursed and chops off all his legs, all his arms, all his head. He turns into the Tin Soldier, functionally the same thing as the Tin Man. Nimmy Ami is batting 1,000. Until the tinsmith who, gave the prosthetics to the Tin Soldier and the Tin Man kept their human limbs and, like, all their human parts, like, they kept Able Fighter's head. Very normal. Cool stuff, guys. And they glue all of these parts together with magic glue and turn all of the human parts into a secret third new guy called Chop Fight. And Nimmy Ami marries him. She marries the amalgamation of her two past exes, and they come back to see her and they're like, oh, I want to take you back. And she's like, I got this guy. And they're like, that's pretty weird. Goodbye. It's a lot. It's very odd. Button Bright. Moving on. Button Bright. Button Bright is a little cutie. He's another guy. He's just a little boy from Kansas. He's in the 5th book. Dorothy and the Shaggy Man find him just sitting by the side of the road in a sailor uniform, digging a hole, which is so real. But, they bring him along with them because they're like, well, we can't leave this kid by himself. He's like a couple years younger than Dorothy, so he's like just a little kid. But, his name is Button Bright. His mom calls him that because she thinks he's very intelligent. She thinks he's the smartest boy in the world. Not everyone else agrees. He's simultaneously viewed by some of the characters as very intelligent, and then other characters think he's dumb as rocks. And the main reason for this is anytime somebody asks him a question, he just goes, don't know. Which is, if you don't know, you don't know. And some characters are like, okay, yeah, he's asking questions. This is how you get educated. He's like, oh, he's humble. He doesn't know. You know what? That's fair, kid. You're really smart. And then other people are like, he doesn't know anything. This kid's stupid. So, make your own choice there. Ojo, I brought him up a little earlier. He starts off being called Ojo the Unlucky because he's left-handed. He was born on Friday the 13th. He's got a wart under his left arm, which isn't that weird, but whatever. He's the little munchkin boy. Tin Woodman also later calls him Ojo the Lucky. He's like, no, you're not unlucky anymore. It's fine. You're lucky. Okay. He was the son of the king, and he had to go and live with his great-uncle because his father got dethroned and exiled from the kingdom. Not a great start. And he helped bring the Patchwork Girl to life. He just hangs out with her for a while. That's all. That's most of what I know about Ojo. Betsy Bobbin. Betsy Bobbin's kind of just hanging out. She's basically Dorothy in a different font. She's a girl from Oklahoma, and she has a pet mule called Hank, and she's 1 year older than Dorothy. She gets introduced in book 8. She washes up on the Rose Kingdom because she was traveling on a ship. Ship got wrecked, caught on fire. She and her mule wash up. They go on an adventure from there. She goes to the Gnome Kingdom, ends up living in the Emerald City. she's not up to much. She's kind of just hanging out, but she's in several of the books, which is why I put her on here. These are all, like, recurring characters. Jellia Jam. We love Jellia Jam. Jellia Jam is a sweet pea. She is very green. She's Dorothy and Ozma's personal maid in the Emerald City. She's introduced in the very first book, and she just keeps coming back because she's awesome. She's a young girl dressed in green with curly green hair and green eyes. Now, mind you, she's still described as being very green afterward, but this description comes from the first book when they've got the Emerald City green glasses on, so she might not actually be that green. We don't know. They don't really go back to it. But she's very loyal, she's very helpful. She keeps working for them even after they abolish money. She's like, no, I like it here. So yeah, she's a helpful gal. She's hanging around. She's very sweet. Polychrome. Polychrome is interesting. She gets introduced in book 5. She's a cloud fairy. And she's the daughter of the rainbow. Yeah. So she's dancing on the rainbow that her dad has, like, on the earth. And then she slides down and gets stranded on the earth without him noticing. She falls off it. But she gets very cold very easily because she says she's used to, living up in the atmosphere closer to the sun, which I don't know if that makes sense, but we'll allow it. Let me see. Dorothy calls her Polly because she thinks polychrome is too long, and she seems fine with it, so she's also called Polly sometimes. But she's always, like, moving around. She likes to dance, hop, skip, and jump, all that. She barely eats anything. She eats, like, a bite of food, and that's it. She likes to eat dewdrops, I think, which is kind of sick. But she gets cold very easily. Oh, I went over that. Her dress in this illustration, it just looks white. But in the book, she's described as wearing a dress with, like, stripes of pale pastel colors because she's the daughter of the rainbow, so get your facts right. The Shaggy Man. Shaggy Man doesn't have a lot going on. He's kind of just this wanderer from Kansas. Let me see. He stole the love magnet, which is this, like, horseshoe-shaped thing that he just carries in his pocket. He loves putting stuff in his pockets. He puts apples in there. He put Toto in there. He just puts stuff in his pockets. Stop that. But he's got this horse-shaped charm that's the love magnet, and it makes everybody he meets love him. Not necessarily romantically. They're just like, oh, this is a cool guy. And he's like, yeah, I'm a cool guy. Let's see. He stole it from a girl in Butterfield, which is in Kansas, but then Ozma asks him, like, hey, don't carry that anymore. And he, like, hangs it over the gates of the Emerald City, which, weird place to put it, but sure. He ends up living in the Emerald City permanently, but he also still goes on trips pretty frequently for, like, weeks at a time, so he's not really stuck in one place. He doesn't have, like, he doesn't really have a name. He calls himself the Shaggy Man, and I'm like, okay, self-awareness. Patchwork Girl, the movie. Patchwork Girl, the movie, is from 1914. I tried watching it on my dad's Amazon account, and the TV showed just a blue screen for the entire movie, so unfortunately I was not able to see it. I'll probably look into it again, but I have not seen it firsthand. However, I have read the description. It's an 81-minute silent film it doesn't have, like, a lot of dialogue. It's mostly just people, like, dancing around in elaborate costumes, which is sick. I respect it. But it basically follows, like, a shortened version of the 7th book, which is The Patchwork Girl of Oz. People weren't super into this movie, ended up being more of a commercial failure. R.I.P. Patchwork Girl of Oz. You will be forever missed and remembered. In a similar vein, The Wizard of Oz short film, not MGM. This came before that. This is from 1910, which is pretty early for a movie. You don't usually think of movies being 1910, but this one is. It's from March. It's a silent film with a total whopping runtime of 13 minutes. I also watched this one in bed while I was fighting my sleeping medication, which was an interesting experience. It basically just summarizes the story beats of the first book, leaves out a couple things. You have to. It's 13 minutes. It's got those, like, intertitle screens with, like, a sentence of dialogue every now and then. But, this was the very first film adaptation of anything Wizard of Oz related. This is the first time that got put to screen. So, I mean, this obviously influenced everything that came after it pretty heavily, because it, gave the first live-action appearances of the characters. The last entry it's a doozy. It's the concept of death. Mortality in Oz it's weird. Death and aging is, like, kinda canceled, but also kinda not. Because, okay, in the 12th book, there's this passage describing the Fairy Queen's Lurlane's enchantment over Oz, which ostensibly has been there the whole time, but it also hasn't been, like, really activated until Ozma got there. It is not explained very well, but it says, "From that moment on, no one in Oz ever died. Those who were old remained old. Those who were young and strong did not change as years passed them by. The children remained children always." That's crazy. However, this gets, like, contradicts itself many, many, many times throughout the series, because, like, they melted the Wicked Witch in the first book. Nick chops off something's head in the first book. The lion and the tiger, they eat stuff. The kitten, she eats stuff. What happens to the animals that get eaten? Do they not die? We don't know. He doesn't tell us. But you know what? All of the things not addressed in the Wizard of Oz books, which are several, many a number, that only leaves us with more room to work with creatively. So get out there and start creating stuff related to the Wizard of Oz. Please. Also register to vote. Goodbye.